How to adopt a child. All you wanted to know about adoptions. 1. Legal definition of adoption. Adoption is when the birth parents of a child sever all legal ties to their child, and the parental rights are legally given over to the new adoptive family, who in most cases are strangers. Modern adoption laws are based on the heritage rules in the Hammurabi Code from the 18th century BC. 2. Why are children given up for adoption? In the UK and the USA, children are usually given up for adoption because they have been mistreated. Other reasons are due to teenage pregnancy, or because the birth parents are no longer able to look after the child, or they have given up the child because it isn't the right sex, it is some form of disability, or because they simply don't want a child. Why adopt? There are many different reasons for wanting to adopt. If couples are unable to conceive, if they want to help others by adopting, and now there are same-sex couples who prefer to adopt. 3. Regulations, US and abroad. The adoption process varies from one country to another. The ethics for eligibility can differ in each country, which can include the age limit, the requirements for same-sex adoption couples, and whether a single person is able to adopt. Placing a child into care and up for adoption is free in the United States. Adopting fees for the parents vary in different countries, and even in some, to charge an adoption fee would be illegal. In the United States, for adoptions you are given a $10,000 tax credit. Four. Concerns and misconceptions. The new parents face many concerns in adoption. The child's family history and their family medical history may be unknown, or kept secret until the child starts to ask questions about where they come from. This usually happens when a child is old enough to ask the right questions, or when they feel the need to find themselves. There are always misconceptions about children who have been fostered, and this is usually fueled by the media. Some children are thought of as not being able to develop properly or will become a problem, but that is not always the case, as children can fare very well when given a new, loving home and go on to lead successful lives. However, many children lose out, and some reach the age of 18 when they are too old to be adopted and are legally adults. They fall out of the system. 5. Different types of adoptions. There are private adoptions, domestic or international adoptions, special needs adoptions, open or closed adoptions, and many others. 6. Adoption photo listing. Adoption photo listing is where an adoption agency, or even social services who deal with adoption, post pictures along with information about children up for adoption on the internet. This is a popular practice used in most counties and internationally, which improves the chances of a child to find a family. Most children are over 7 years old, and some have special needs. Just Google adoption photo listing. 7. Difficult U.S. states. Among the hardest states to adopt from, Montana is surely the one that tops the list, for they ask for occupational, drug or alcohol abuse and domestic violence history, besides the racial ethnic background details of the adoptive parents. Some of this information also need to be filled up by the states of New Mexico, North Carolina, South Dakota, West Virginia, Arizona, Illinois, Vermont, Puerto Rico, Pennsylvania and the District of Columbia, for their adoption records. 8. The home study as part of the adoption process. When deciding to adopt a child, you will need to be assessed for suitability as an adoptive parent before you become a successful candidate. The home study is one of the processes you will need to go through if you wish to adopt a child. In the book we discuss the methods that you can use to prepare for a home study. 9. Adoption laws. The first step towards an adoption procedure requires prospective parents to file a petition with the court for a formal request to adopt a child. The couple needs to give details of personal and professional nature, including the child's birth certificate, or birth particulars, for example date and place of birth, a legal statement as to why the child's birth parents have terminated their rights, among other facts. All this requires the expertise of an adoption lawyer to represent the prospective parents in court, minimize hassles of petition filing etc., and to follow a procedure that is most beneficial to their rights. Especially in the final stages of the adoption procedure, the help of a qualified and experienced adoption lawyer is of utmost importance, since this is the individual who will clue in the adoptive parents about how to approach the hearing, which takes place a year from the child being sent to stay with them in their home. While adoption agencies can educate parents about the nitty-soft-gritty of adoption issues, it is mainly the onus of a true adoption lawyer to masterfully handle the legalities of the procedure and ensure the couple in question is granted permanent custody of the child through proper and timely follow-through of various legal procedures and ascertaining all documents are in order. 10. Adoption agencies. There comes a time when a person decides they want to adopt a child. However, a person may be confused on where to look. Parents can try private adoption, which means searching on their own. However, the popular way is through an adoption agency. Adoption agencies are home to a wealth of information that one might not be able to get on their own. Just calling a random company is not going to work though. Research different companies. Find one with a good reputation and one that works well its clients. 11. Adopting from a financial point of view. Adoptions are not cheap and cost anywhere from $5,000 to $40,000 and possibly more. The more expensive adoptions are usually the international adoptions. Finding enough money to fulfill this dream could prove difficult, especially when you have other burdens. There are many options to consider, such as personal loans or refinancing your mortgage. If you don't have the money readily available, you can end up in debt, which is the last thing you want when you finally get a child into your home. In the book we discuss where to find financial help and how to relieve the problem. 12. First-time adoption questions. Anyone thinking of adopting for the first time will have many questions and concerns. Adopting is not a simple process and much consideration and deliberation is necessary. It is a very serious matter and not to be taken lightly. There is much more to adopting a child. It is not like shopping for a car. A child is a precious gift. The following is a list of some of the common questions that those wishing to adopt for the first time might and should ask. In North America, who is able to adopt? How long is the process for adopting a child? What is the cost of adopting a child? How does the adoption process operate? Is one able to adopt from another province or state? Can one adopt a child from abroad? What sources are available for first-time adoption? All these questions are answered in depth in our book. 13. Preparing the home for your adoptive child. Make the new home inviting and caring. Change insurance and legal papers. Get new documents for the child made up. Make the home child safe if there are other children. Talk to them and get their feelings on having an adopted child in the house. Get them involved. 14. Deciding between open and closed adoptions. Closed adoptions have been the norm for quite some time. It is the way adoptions have been traditionally done, with the two parties involved not knowing anything about the other, not even names. Open adoptions are very different. The particulars of an open adoption are confidential except to the parties involved. In this situation the birth mother selects candidates. 15. How to adopt your stepchild. Involve all parties for a successful, happy adoption. When considering adopting your stepchild, you need to discuss it with your partner or spouse first. If your spouse considers it a good decision for you to adopt their child and you are ready, you should then ask your stepchild how they feel about your decision. if they are at an age where they understand the proposal you are making to them. 16. Adopting siblings. If a child is adopted into a permanent home, it is very upsetting for them if they have siblings who are also up for adoption and get left behind. Often, new parents only want to adopt one child. If brothers and sisters are separated and they have grown up together in a children's home, it can have a dramatic effect on the adopted child's life. One of the countries that have sibling groups up for adoption is Colombia. 17. Adopting a special needs child. Adopting a special needs child may seem like a difficult task, but there are advantages if prospective parents are willing to go this route. These adoptions cost little to no money and have less wait time than a regular adoption. Special needs is defined differently in each state. Get a definition from your local government on what constitutes a special need child. Most of the time it is a child with a physical or mental disability. Other times it could be a child with an emotional issue or even siblings who need to stay together in a home. 18. Transracial adoption. Transracial adoption is placing a child of a different race or ethnic background with parents who are not of the same race or ethnic origin. This is usually referring to children who are of a different color and race. Placing them with Caucasian parents, there are much more children available of a different race and color, compared to the availability of Caucasian children. Couples wishing to adopt feel the need to reach out to any child, regardless of the color or ethnic background. There are mixed opinions on this, as it is viewed that children may fare better with a family where one parent is of the same race, whilst others believe that race doesn't matter at all. In transracial adoption there are even more concerns that you need to think about. (19) Adoption by same-sex couples. If partners are in a same-sex relationship, one may decide to adopt a child. The legal requirements of adoption from same-sex partners differs from one state to another in the US and also in countries worldwide. Second parent adoption is one of the options in the United States. Second parent adoption is allowed for couples of the same sex in California, Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Washington, and in Washington, D.C. The other 38 states that the laws for adoption by partnerships of the same sex are ambiguous. It's not available in Florida, nor is it possible in Utah. 20. Public adoption. Simply put, public adoption is when a public adoption agency or government arranges an adoption. There are fewer choices available in public adoption, which usually focus primarily on the children's safety and welfare. The main priority is to find ideal parents for the child, rather than looking for the perfect child for the couple adopting. In public adoption, it is the agency that takes over the whole process of choosing, and parents do not get much of a look in nor given enough options. 21. International adoption. Going overseas to find that baby is so much easier and faster for North American and Canadian couples that international adoptions are fast becoming the preferred choice of many prospective parents keen to adopt, especially those hiring the services of a private agency. Some non-profit organizations are also helping prospective couples adopt a child. The organization handling the adoption usually has the onus of picking a child based on adoption laws and regulations of their nation. The drawbacks of international adoptions include more complex and considerably more expensive adoption procedures. 22. Russian adoption. Russia banned adoptions to the United States starting January 1, 2013, but allowed about 50 adoptions that had already received court approval to proceed. Hundreds of other cases, even ones where the parents had met the child, remain frozen. Some of those prospective parents have decided to challenge the ban in the European Court of Human Rights. 23. Book's Table of Contents. All about adoptions. Why you should choose adoption. Adoption statistics, some telling facts about the process of adoption. Adoption do's and don'ts. Children awaiting adoption. Steps to put your child up for adoption. Adoption resources. Adoption photo listing. Adoption records. Why are they so important? How to prepare for the home study as part of the adoption process. Adoption lawyers. Adoption agencies. Choosing the right adoption agency and what to expect. 4 places to help you find the right adoption agency. Where to find financial help when adopting a child. First-time adoption. Meeting your adoptive child. Preparing the home for an adoptive child. 5 steps. Types of domestic adoption. The differences between open and closed adoptions. Deciding between open and closed adoptions. Adopting your stepchild. Adopting siblings. Adopting a special needs child. Transracial adoption. Adoption by same-sex couples. Public adoption. International adoption. The pros and cons of international adoption. Canadians adopting from the US. Russian adoption. Vietnamese adoptions. Adopting from China.